Oh, there's a yellow card.
Hello.
Hello there.
What's up? I'll tell you that cracked. I was laughing. Mona, no, I was laughing so hard at that. I don't know. It was just the perfect. That was like the perfect GIF. That was the most perfect GIF you could have sent. It was like with like the
What?
with like the back of his head with the stupid bucket helmet that he wears, and he turned. Oh my god, it was so perfect. It really cracked me up. Oh my god. Yeah, so I haven't worked on Path of Senshi in a bit. It was
I do not have D6 dice.
I don't have any dice. I don't I don't have any dice here. I don't know. I mean, maybe I do have dice somewhere, but I don't think I do. What's the one? Huh? No, but those aren't D6s. Those are D8s. I have 8-sided dice around, but I don't have 6-sided dice.
That's not gonna work for the percentages that I need.
This fucking squirrel!
Hey, get out of here, squirrel. The squirrel is always trying to get her food.
Classic.
Yeah.
1 second. Right back.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, it was so crazy. I mean, I've been working on this. This is what I've been working on. Bah. Look at that. Look at that. That's what I've been working on.
All right.
I was getting my sniper ready for airsoft this weekend. That and like a ton of other stuff. But Bradley. Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what you're saying in some ways.
I'm gonna show you in Tabletop Simulator because you can use dice in Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. Let me launch Tabletop Simulator. That's a good idea. Let's do that.
I have dice.
Well, I don't have dice. I
have many dice. I can roll the dice in front of me, and I can see exactly what I want to see.
Yeah. Well,
that's a pretty crazy roll. It's like all 5s and 6s. That's pretty wild.
It is surprising I don't have any dice. I will say.
It's like unacceptable.
It is a little bit. I hate dice. What can I say?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of dice neither, but they have their purpose.
They do. All right. So I'll create the server.
Yeah. Doesn't even have to be Path of Senshi. Could literally just be
Nah, why not?
a random table with
That's right.
10 dice on it.
We could use the Path of Senshi table. We could use the Path of Senshi table. It's all good. It's all good fun. We're doing the Path of Senshi thing. So use the Path of Senshi server. I'll invite you right now. Here you go.
No, that's not how it works anymore.
I was thinking about, I'm trying to wrap my head around what your idea is. I mean, I see what you're saying because you're like the math wizard in a way. Like you're like a level 8 math wizard, I'd say. So
stuff in Steam.
Shift tab, I think, and then accept.
I was thinking For Honor.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like an F2 or something.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
All right. So I need. Some
Riley, your
dice.
connection. It's terrible.
What?
Terrible
What do you
connection.
want?
Nah,
I don't care.
That's
I'm green. All right.
Welcome.
I'll flip this table. Where is?
Don't flip
Let me
the table.
spawn a bunch of dice.
You want some dice? All right, here. I'll spawn some dice.
These
Components, dice, plastic. Okay, here's a D6. Boom, boom. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, there's 5.
Wait,
Five for me,
that
five
was
for you.
7. Oh.
5 for me, 5 for you. You're making a mess.
I got 5 right here. Look at that. Get this one out of here. That's just
Alright.
gone.
So,
Oh no, it's floating in the air over there. All right, I got
roll
my
your
dice.
5 dice.
I'm rolling.
All right. Now this represents your hand. Actually, can we have different colored dice?
Yeah, just select them all and do color tint, and then boom.
I don't want all of them.
Oh wait,
So,
that didn't work.
How many?
Oh wait, maybe it does.
How many?
There we go.
How many attack dice do you want? How many defense dice do you want?
How many attack dice do I want? I mean, all right. Well, you're gonna have to explain to me what we're doing here. What are you thinking?
I'm gonna show you how combat and its most basic form works. So,
Alright. Let's see it.
yeah, go to. Okay, so you want to be attack or defender?
I'll.
Well, you're red, so I guess you'll be attack.
All right.
Okay, so we'll say blue is defense dice, red is attack dice. So right now I am
Woo!
primed for defense, and you're primed for offense, right?
I'm primed.
So I have 5 defense card, which is
Optimus Prime.
pretty unrealistic, but all right. So roll your dice.
I'm rolling.
All right, you can put them down now.
I
Alright,
got
this is how
a
it's gonna
17.
Okay, this is how it's gonna work. So anytime I have a 6, or anytime our numbers match, basically I have the right card. So we'll say that 4, 5, 6 is long range, and 1, 2, 3 is close range. Higher number being a top block, lower number being low and mid. You get right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in my
yeah.
hand right now, I have 2 high blocks at long range, 2 low blocks at long range, and a
Well,
mid-range.
how you talking
close.
about? Wait, how you determining the range? This is high. This is low.
4,
Right.
5, 6 will be long range. Those will be low. Yeah. Okay. So play your first attack.
Play my first attack. All right, I'm attacking. High attack. Boom. Oh, well, it transformed, but
Yeah, so it was 6. So I'm gonna block with mine.
okay,
So I had a 6, so I was able to block that easy peasy.
nice.
Now I in theory could chain, but obviously I have no attack card, so I'm not going to. Now it's your turn again.
Play a low attack.
Okay. Now I don't have any low attacks, and I don't. Well, I have a low attack, right? Because my 4 is a low attack, but it's not the right range. So what I can do is I can discard. I can block with the long range and discard a card. To essentially, I'm gonna choose the 4 because I have 2 of them, and I'm gonna block your low attack with 2 long range low attacks, basically discarding 1 so I can change the range to close range to block your low attack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I only have 2 cards left, and you have 3.
Okay. Here comes a low attack.
and I had the 2 to block that, so I blocked that one perfectly. No counter, because I have no attack cards. And now I'm kind of screwed, because no matter what you're playing, I mean, I do have not enough to block the 6, so you're going to get 1 attack through, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what I do, I'm going to get hit. The chance of me being able to perfectly block everything is basically 0. It's such a slim chance that the math comes out to, it's like, I think it's a 1.5. You have like a 1.5 chance, like 1.5 of your attacks are going to hit, basically. At the end of the day, if it's all attack versus all defense. But let's mix it up a little now, and I'm going to change a few of mine to attacks, and you can change whatever you want to do. So stay all attacks or whatnot. And we'll say that the number on the dice is the damage it deals for this round.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to stay, you're going to do 2 and 2.
Oh, it's 3 and 2, yeah.
Okay. So you're the attacker against you at 3 attack and 2 defense. Okay. Against my 3 defense and 2 attacks. Now, once again, we wouldn't know this.
Yeah.
This is just the attack. So you'd play your first attack.
I guess this is a mid attack.
Okay, so that's a high attack close range. Now, I have a high attack. I can block a high attack, but at long range. So I'd have to discard a card.
Okay.
To be able to do that. So, in order to do that, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to discard one of my attack cards to do that, to change the range to perfect block. Now, in theory, I should be able to chain, potentially. The exact ruling on that is unknown. Still work in progress. But I'm going to say I can chain now. So I'm going to chain into my only other attack card, which is now a 6. So a high long-range attack is what I'm chaining into.
Okay. I'm confused on how you're determining the range part.
Higher numbers are range, lower numbers are.
I thought higher numbers were high attack.
Well, the higher numbers 4 to 6 are going to be long range. 1 to 3 are going to be close range. And then
so every high attack is a long range.
6 is high attack long range. 3 is high attack short range.
Oh, okay.
4, 5,
Okay. I see it. So this is a high attack short range. I got you.
Which I blocked with a high attack long range with a discard.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna chain into my high attack.
All right, you chain your high attack long range. All right. I'll defend with my high defense long range.
So now you block that, and now you can chain as well.
Chain into I guess this is a high mid, a long range.
Chaining, now without anything else, chaining doesn't really matter because if you didn't chain, you could just follow up with another attack. So, but yes. So now you're doing a low long range, right?
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a low, but only in short range. So I'm gonna discard this defense card to block, and now I'm out of cards, and you're basically getting your free hit.
Okay.
Right. So, point of this demonstration is that as a defender, you basically have no chance of avoiding a hit. Even with 5, 3, no matter what I do, there's not a good chance when you only have a 1 in 6 chance of blocking it. And we can run the simulation over and over and over again. We can change how many dice we have and all that stuff. The chance of me having all the perfect matching combinations with what you're attacking with is very slim. Even if I increase, my defense dice, and now I have 4 instead of 3, I'm still probably gonna end up getting hit. You can run this, so I don't have a 6 to block that. My 3 would block your 3 at some point. I don't have a 2. But I could, in theory, discard. If you only had 3 cards, I could, in theory, probably block the other one because I just need a high, which I also don't have. So actually, no, I wouldn't be able to do that. I need to have a close range because you have a long. So you have a long range high. So your 3 is going to be blocked by my 3, right? Your long range high has to be blocked by. I would need to play a long range card with a discard. And then your short range, I would need to play a short range card with a discard. So in that case, I would be able to block all your stuff 4 defense cards against 3 attacks. So that's the basic of how combat works, right? So you have a 1 in 6 chance of blocking, and you have a 1 in 6 choice of attack.
I mean, but part of this, you're assuming that you could just chain every card.
Well, no, the chaining is irrelevant. To this
But
point
but it matters because no, but it matters because
attack, you just attack.
No, because if you're not at the right range, you'd have to discard a card.
Yes.
Like you can't just like attack. You can't just like have a close range attack in your hand and then just use that if you're at long range. Like you still have to discard a card to play that card. But if you had chained, then you wouldn't have to discard the card.
If you have the right chain, as well.
Yeah, but after yeah, exactly. Look at this squirrel. He just jumps down. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but my point is that there's still that little. I mean, if it was its basic form, like yeah, you could just like attack whenever. Like the chain part of the chain benefit was your saving cards from being discarded if you were changing range. But one of the issues with that is that the katana, like you know, if I'm running a katana and it's all close range stuff, then I don't really. I guess I would have to change the range if someone changed it to long. But I think
to either have a defense card to change it back to short or vice versa. But I think that's ridiculous anyway because I think katana should be able to. Every card should be chainable by every weapon shouldn't be determined. Like the card shouldn't determine what, or the weapon shouldn't determine what cards you can play or chain. I think everything could be chained. Once again, it's just a matter of you can have restrictions on the cards themselves by having a katana, maybe the upgrade can only, or maybe the starting card can only chain close range attacks and stuff like that. And as you get better with the katana, it opens up more chains that are on the cards themselves, but you might not be able to use right away, for example.
I mean, you can play any card with the katana. It's just you'd have to discard a card. Like that, I mean, at least that was the rule that I had originally had. I mean, I don't know
if you have a long range card, if you're in long range and you have a long range card with a katana, you can still play it to attack because you're at the right range, right? If you're at long range and you have a thrust, you can play it even if you're wielding a katana. You just can't, in theory, chain it.
I think it might have been, at least as it was you still had to discard an additional card because you're not at the proper range for that weapon. I mean, at least that was the rule I had. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it is what it is now, but that was the rule with katana or the spear or the yari. Was like if you're playing attack outside of your range, you still have to. You're discarding a card for that, but you're also discarding a card to change the range if you needed to. Like if I was at long range and I wanted to play the thrust card, yeah, I would have to discard one card because I'm already at long range. But if I was at close range, and I had a katana and I wanted to play a long range attack, I would technically have to discard 2 cards because 1 card to change the range, 1 card because I'm playing a long range attack with the katana. That was the rule.
Well, that sounds absurd. I mean, this makes much more sense. The card is determining the range you're at. You have to be to play it. You can't do a thrust in close range. You can't do a slash, whatever the other one is, at long range. The card itself determines the range of the attack. You know, I mean, I had an idea for a, universal range attack, that was like low damage, but it can be used at either range.
Whatever
That
you
was more of
want.
a chaining kind
Whatever you
of
want.
attack. But as it currently stands, an attack has a range, and that's what it is, right? So saying you can't strike with a katana using a slash.
Okay. Well, I'm not necessarily saying that you couldn't do that. I mean, that's how it was, and I know that it's evolving. Like the combat here is evolving. Like we're trying to change it so in some ways so it maybe makes a little, maybe flows a little bit differently. But the way that it wasn't. It was working mostly. So I'm trying to understand the structure of the new cards. Because I have to design how the new cards are going to be structured together. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm looking at these, like, what, me and you chat, and I'm also trying to understand exactly how it all comes together, because I have to put the card together. You know what I mean? So I have to put this card. You can't see it. You can't see this at the exact moment, but I mean, if I shared my screen, I guess you could. But the card that I sent you the picture of, like,
yeah.
I need to understand how the structure of each card would be, like, in your imagination of the combat, like, going. Because right now, I was thinking along different lines, because I was like, oh, I think it'd be cool if it was like the adept can attack from, the attacks would come from multiple directions, and you were saying that you shouldn't have attacks coming from multiple directions because of you think it's impossible to block.
It would break your fundamental rule of 6, essentially. You have 6 directions. You have 6 places to attack. Long and close, and this high, low, medium.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the second you start adding multiple ranges or multiple directions, it starts to break that system.
Well, I figured that was what in my mind, I was like, okay, these are enhanced, like the attack is being enhanced by your, like, so my idea of it was like, okay, I'm using a katana, I'm attacking from one direction, but because my skill is increasing in the katana, now it's harder for the defender to block, all, like, depending on what the attack was, but it'd be harder for the defender to block this type of attack because of the skill that I'm growing with that weapon. But that was, I guess, the attack.
I think you're better off just enhancing what the attacker can do, for the sole reason that it then puts the choice in the defender. Do they want to block something at that time or not? Because right now, there's really no reason to not block something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think it's worthwhile to wait out an attack because it's a low damage attack and you're not too concerned about the chain, or maybe you are concerned about the chain, but you think it's better to save, maybe because you only have one defense card in your hand, to save it for when you really want to stop a more powerful attack, now you're making that choice.
Well, but that's how the original game, at least that's how the original game is like, well, at least how I was designing it, was that you don't know what the other person might be planning. Like, is the first attack they're playing their plan to do like a crazy strike, or is it going to be, are they trying to bait out the defense that you have? I mean, if you had a full-handed defense, then you were obviously prepared for that scenario. I mean, I didn't really care that much with the fact that you defended every attack that I did, because the order that I was playing the cards was very specific, and you were just ready for me to do that. Like, you were just you knew that I was going to attack you, so you prepared yourself for that situation. You made your hand have a lot of defense cards rather than because you knew that you were ahead in the game. So I didn't feel like it was like, oh, I had to get through because I'm the offensive player. Like, I had to deal some damage to you. That wasn't what I really like imagined, like, in my head.
I'm not. The chance of a defender having a full-handed defense card is very unlikely, and also if they do, it doesn't guarantee them, or probably even close to have a chance of blocking all the damages coming towards them. because once again, as you can see in our dice little game here, even with 5 defense dice against 5 attack dice, I'm not gonna win. I'm still gonna get hit, unless of course your last card is not the right range. But
well,
plan that.
But in the game we actually played, you were able to defend every attack that I threw at you.
Well, you didn't have a full hand of defense card or a full hand of attack cards. You had some defense cards in there too.
Yeah, but a logical person, but a logical person would have some, because what if you what if you had what if you attacked back? You know what I mean? Like, what am I just gonna not have You
would win. You would still win because attack is still gonna be, as long as my attack wasn't twice as powerful as your attack, you're still gonna win in that fight in the end. You're gonna trade more blows if we have the same amount of cards in hand. You're still gonna hit me more. Because at best, I can match you, right? It's one card to one card. So at best, we're going to hit each other the same amount of time. If I have a way to chain properly.
And that's also, but that's also assuming that the amount of damage, the card you're playing in damage is lower or higher than mine. You know what I mean? There's still the factor of how strong is the card. You know what I mean? So it's I feel like it's tough. I feel like it's tough to yes, if you break it down to its simplest form, I don't like to use Magic as an example for stuff, but in Magic it's there's the deck composition math of okay, I'm gonna have this amount of lands or this amount. There's the math of what I'm gonna draw, but there's not the math of I mean, at least I don't know. I feel like they aren't calculating every amount of they're just making cards and playing with them and seeing how it feels or how it works. Does this all work together very well? And I'm sure that they have a standard for how powerful they should make cards or not make cards and stuff like that. But I'm trying to also make it I feel like sometimes it goes beyond of what you can just calculate with in its simplistic form. I feel like I go ahead.
Basically infinite amount of cards, where you're gonna have a set limit here. So there will be combinations that kind of just can be kind of calculated out. Especially if you're gonna have specific change, hey, this is gonna change to this is gonna change to this. You can kind of follow that track, especially if you know the game. So it's good to have a good baseline that's understandable and try not to break that rule, because then all the cards you base off that baseline combat will make more sense. Instead of trying to make, a bunch of cards that are cool because they sound cool, they sound powerful, you want to make sure that the baseline is understandable. And,
No, for sure.
I don't...
One of my worries though is if you make it, I don't know if this is what's going to be the case, but if you make it the progression, I'm kind of worried about. How long is the progression going to take for you to okay, I'm grabbing these these single attack. I'm thinking about the progression too. How fast, because the game still has to end. So I guess I was a little worried about that.
I think 2 cool things that you can do is one, have strength and endurance as a skill to upgrade in addition to your deck. So, having more cards in your hand and having more powerful damage from the cards that you have in your hand. I think that is a cool way to also add progression. Because, you can build your deck, but I feel 5 cards is kind of limiting, but that's a good start. I feel 5 is a good quick exchange, hit. But you can't really go much from here, because the second I can block 2 directions with a defensive card, all of a sudden that's making it so much easier for me to have the right card. Because right now I need to have both the right range and the right direction. Otherwise I have to discard a card, which all of a sudden is making my hand, now it's doubling the cost of me able to block a card, which basically guarantees you an extra card to hit me with. right? Because I'm using 2 to block 1. But if you want to have an upgrade defense card, and that can block 2 directions, now I have a much higher chance of getting the right one, which makes it much harder for you as an offense to break through. But if you throw in a little splice there, and now I have 6 cards and you have 5 cards, well, now it's a different game.
Well, now it's like not even fair.
Well, it depends. If my dice can block 2 directions, but you have 7 dice, you're still gonna win. Because I can still only block 1 for 1. Defense is limited. It's always gonna be 1 for 1 at best. So you can never win on defense with less dice. Unless you have some sort of attack that can counter. And that's where it kind of comes into play.
Well, I don't know if I would allow the hand sizes to be altered. But maybe I would, I don't know. I'm still trying to think about because I have to go in a certain direction with like how the design of the combat cards themselves. You know, I'm still trying to think of how I'm gonna design this card, like because I have to do that with each card.
So, essentially, the way I kind of saw these going is that you have right now. I think you have 6 different attack types. I'd probably lower that to 5, and I kind of had them written out here. So I kind of narrowed it down to having a slash, a bash, a slice, a thrust, and a cut. And essentially, slashes and bashes are going to be your close range cards. Your slash is going to be your standard damage, basic chaining, you know, just kind of your basic close range card. Your bash is going to be your better chaining, but lower damage. Your slice is going to be kind of your, once again, your standard long range card, basic chaining, you know, standard damage. Your thrusts are going to be your high damage long range cards, but they're going to have really poor chaining or no chaining at all unless you have a specific weapon type. And then lastly, the cut is kind of going to be your chaining card. It can be long or short range. It's going to be whichever your current combat situation is in. So it's going to have low damage, and it's going to have a lot of chain potential. So that's kind of going to be your, you know, get some damage in card that you don't really want to waste a defense dice on, but you may want to avoid someone chaining and getting chain benefits. And then based off those, you can basically build infinite chains of how those would kind of expand from there, right? So you have your basic attack, and let's say your basic chain, you can chain to one other type of attack. So maybe a high slash can only go into a bash. Let's say that's its basic. Its enhanced version might be able to go from slash into another slash. And then, you know, depending on what attack direction it is, it'll also have different things there. Like high attacks obviously have the highest damage. The center mid attacks might have more chain options. And the low will be low damage, but it might be, you know, some kind of special property or something, or, you know, like a stun or a dagger or something like that, that will make your opponent discard more cards, kind of setting you up.
Isn't that technically like way harder to balance the game with that? Like going that route?
In what way?
Like, isn't it harder to balance like how the cards like interact?
Compared to what?
I guess like compared to the formula that like I was using with like the like each like the attack types being linked to the weapon types.
Well, no, because you can basically write out exactly what the chain is going to be. You know this chains to this, this, and this. And if you're at this level, then it's going to chain to these are the other potential chains it would go to. And once again, because of the way the combat works, the defender's choosing what they're getting hit with and what they're not getting hit with. You know, they have their defense cards, and they know what they can block and how much it's going to cost them to block. So if they want to block them,
why don't you send me that list that you made then?
Yeah. So
what about like where is like the easy mentality for like deck building? Like where is the focus of how are people deck building?
Okay, so instead of having colors based on the attack type, the colors should be more related to the chain type. I think that'll be easier from a visual standpoint, because, you know, maybe a slash doesn't always go to a slash. You know, it should be kind of a chain color. So, you know, the cut, for example, that kind of really good chaining card, it might have a rainbow border because it kind of goes with everything. Where, you know, a high slash may not chain into much, so it will have a different color. And basically, your color coordination will kind of dictate where it's going to go from there. And potentially you could have, like, maybe one side of the card is, you know, like the right side is going to be where it chains into, the left side is where it's chaining from. Because at the end of the day, the type of attack doesn't really matter. That's really more for game design and understanding. Like, hey, we know slashes should be higher damage than bashes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But from a standpoint, there's no reason a slash has to chain to another slash that, you know. In fact, it probably shouldn't, you know. A high slash probably shouldn't be able to chain into another high slash, because that's just compounding damage on damage. And that's where you can kind of control how much damage somebody could, in theory, do when going into chains. If you know you can't chain a high slash into another high slash, now you're limiting what they can actually go into. So maybe a high slash can only chain into a bash, or can only chain into a cut. And now that card is limited, and now you can only chain so much. And I think an important part of this is kind of what are the chain bonuses, because you really need some reason to chain besides just switching attack direction, because, you know, that's kind of your way of making you want an offense. You want people to hit each other. You don't want it to be a boring fest of, hey, this guy's got 5 defense cards. This is boring. You know, you want to see the back and forth. You want to see the hits back and forth. You know, you don't want to see counterspell, counterspell, counterspell. You want to see hit, 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 hit. You know? Defense should really be kind of focused around avoiding the big hits or stopping a potential dangerous chain. You know, and that would be more on the defensive player. Like, what are they more afraid of? You know, I might have a high defense block, so I'm not too worried if you have a high attack card. So maybe I will spend something to block that, you know, that very chainable card that you're playing, because even if you do play a high card afterwards, I have the stuff to block. You know, I'm prepared for it. And I also don't want the defender to just be defending. I want them to also have attack opportunities. I don't want someone to sit with the hand of defense cards. So I don't want to make defense cards overly powerful. And I don't think they will be, because once again, if you have the same amount of cards, defense will basically never be able to match offense, because the chance of you getting perfect matches against everything the offense is playing is pretty slim. You know, if you have the same number of cards. Which is good with the ratio of, you know, 1 in 6 chance of basically having the right card. It's good, and when you compare it out, it's, you know, the basic level, you're probably getting hit by 1.5 cards, even if you're going 5 defense against 5 offense. Which in my opinion is a good ratio, because that encourages, hey, don't stack your hand of defense cards, you're going to want to have some kind of counter plays. And the trick that becomes out of that is that you need to have the right cards to block, otherwise you're going to also have to spend extra cards to block. So, by attacking, I'm also draining your resources, and you might not want to drain your resources, you might want to just power through that. And then that's where things like weapon types and armors and items can come into play to kind of really throw the wrench in the mix there and kind of give you something really interesting to work with.
So how would the weapon types be unique?
Okay. So I think I wrote them somewhere. I had a couple ideas. So for the Yari and the Naginata, their main thing would kind of be focused on thrusting. So my idea was that thrust in general couldn't be chained. But because these are thrusting weapons, they would kind of override that. So they would allow chain thrusts.
But how would you visualize? How would you visualize that on the card? If the cards are describing the chains, how would you visually put that on the card?
It'd be written on the weapon. You would know what weapon you have and what it can do. It would say, can chain thrusts. So you would know you can do that, and it can write the bonus. And the bonuses of chaining are written on the combat card or the weapon card.
Yeah, but
not the technique card.
But the bonuses of chaining would be written on the weapon card?
Not the technique card. Yeah, the technique card doesn't tell you what the chain bonus is. A katana
All
card.
right. Well, what I mean is doesn't the technique card say what it can chain into?
Yes. So this would basically just override that. It would say, that's what these things are. I mean, they're exceptions to the rule. They give you extra stuff.
Yeah, but how?
Tell you, hey.
So it would say on the Yari and the Naginata card what type of attack it can chain into?
Yes. Well, it would say if you're at level training, let's say it's the basic, you get it at the basic level. It would say can chain thrusts into thrusts. Or can chain thrusts, probably. It probably wouldn't be thrust into thrust. It would probably just be can chain thrusts into anything. Or something like that. Or there might be some limit to what it can be chained into. Maybe you can chain thrust into another long-range attack. And that can be written on the actual card itself as part of the level, that relates to that bonus. I like the idea of as a basic level chaining you can draw and discard, just as a basic for everything, to have that kind of functionality. So that if you do have a hand that you don't like, or that you're not really super prepared with, you can kind of cycle through it to get to something you want that might be more relevant for your fight. I feel like cycling is a really important part of deck building. Having the ability to cycle out of a situation that you would otherwise have to just endlessly draw for. Which I kind of felt was a little not great in the game. Kind of just, I'm discarding my hand to get to the cards I drew earlier. I felt like that was kind of too easy to do. And I feel like that's where training can really show an important part of, hey, it's cycling. So you want to hit those chains. So you can cycle into your better stuff if you don't have it in your hand already. And then, for example, the Kurushima, I hope I pronounced that right. your opponent must discard an additional card to block. And I don't know, that could be at some level. I don't know what level that would be at for the Fukushima, but like things like that. So your weapons are going to have 4 different abilities on them for the different levels of training that you have with them, different level of skill you have with them, and it's just a matter of figuring out what they are, what is at each level, and kind of identifying each weapon and how they impact what chains you have access to. And that's kind of what's going to be interesting, because now you want to encourage that ability to change so you can cycle into the good stuff and kind of manipulate your hand through chaining. Like, that's how you'll get to these stuff you want to play, instead of discarding and drawing every turn just to get your starter cards out of your hand. I feel like that's a more interesting way of managing your deck, instead of just trying to discard the starter cards. I still like the idea of the starter cards, being able to be training them away to get them out of your hand, and their minus VP. I feel like all that is really good at, that works. But I feel like the actual combat, I feel that you just kind of got stuck with what you had, and I feel like you can improve that by having chaining and, oh, maybe I will play this defensive card because I want to get this card out of my hand and maybe draw something better. And just across the board, I would probably lower damage of cards, because that gives it more room to grow later on in the game. If you had, again, I like the idea of strength. You can build your strength to deal more bash damage, but also deal more damage in general. I think, do I have anything else with strength? Let's see what I had here. Strength. There you are. Oh, and it would also increase your health for strength, and increase your max health. So once again, those systems that feel like progressive growth. You go to the jujitsu training gym, buff up your strength. Now you do more damage, more bash damage, and you can take more damage yourself.
All right, so
and then. Yeah.
Maybe why don't I share my screen in my design program, and you can tell me, you can kind of help me put together offense and a defense card, an example version of one, so I can kind of see what you're thinking in terms of, because I imagine they would all look still similar.
Yeah. The actual look of it wouldn't be changing too much.
Hold on one second. Let me share my screen. Are we good? From being in tabletop, can I close this?
Yeah.
Do we need this? Okay. All right, let me
No, disconnected.
yeah. Hold on. Let me
save it.
Let me share here. All right. I'm gonna This doesn't really matter. This stuff. All right, so what are you thinking for? So this would be an offense card, I guess. Okay.
Okay, so I didn't really get to the offense cards that much and what they would. So I have a big Excel list here of what cards there would be in existence.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to I just got to the basic offense cards.
That's fine.
But we can work on it. So. Let's start with a high splash, we'll call this. So that looks, so that's basically like a high slash. All right, so you have your range, good. Range, damage, and the attack type, and the direction.
Yep.
Now, what I would want to see is what this can chain into at a basic level. Now, from a design standpoint, the direction is more important than the attack type. The attack type actually doesn't matter really much at all. It's really just a name, you know? So what's really more important from the chaining perspective is what direction it's going into. But the attack type can also be a factor in there, because this is kind of where I'm not sure how to describe it, because it's more of, you know, like, I don't want a high attack card to be able to chain to another high attack, because I feel like that's just too powerful. So
good.
So yeah, so I wouldn't have like the Adept or the Master in there, because I feel like that's going to be more based on the cards themselves. And it probably, like, if this is a basic card, it's not going to go all the way up there. Like, the high slash, the best it's going to go into is an enhanced slash. Or, I don't know if I even had names for the attacking side of things. I had defense names, I don't know if I had attack. Like, enhancements. Like, so the ones I had for defense were like a counter, enhanced, defense card with an attack, also superior, and things like that. I didn't really have any names for attack cards, but we can come up with this. So essentially it's going to have one kind of buff. So it's going to go from basically a training card, I would say, to a experienced card. And so in order to get to the higher levels for Adept and Master, that's going to be a completely separate, higher version of the like an advanced technique deck, essentially. So one card will have 2 levels. So you'll have a lower level card and a higher level card, which is going to be in a separate advanced technique deck that you can only get when you're at that higher level. So the basic card will basically have the basic thing it can do plus some extra bonus that it's going to expand into. So in this case, it could be additional chaining, but that might be weapon specific. You know, maybe only the katana is going to get a specific chain, and that could be described in the katana card. That's kind of where we got to figure this out. So I wouldn't have 2 boxes here for like Adept and Master. Like, what it would go is basically into just experienced. So the basic card is level training, and then above that you're going to go into like the bonus underneath the card is going to be experienced, and that's going to give some extra bonus to the basic. So now I don't know. I know you want to have the cards readable on like the left side. But from a flow perspective, I mean, I guess it can go down or to the right. I guess it wouldn't make a big difference. In fact, Japanese is usually written up and down anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
well, that was part of the design choice too.
So yeah, so maybe you could have the chain go. So if that's your basic card, you can have some kind of symbol to show a chain going down. So no, keep the experience box the same size. It would still be at the bottom of the card. You would just have a little more space underneath the basic to kind of define its chain. You know, its basic chain.
So would this area would the experience be like what it can chain into?
No, so that's going to be a separate thing. So where you currently have experience in that gray box, I would move that whole thing, experience in the gray box, down to the bottom like you had it before, where the master was.
Okay.
Yeah. So right here, so where that was in the middle there, I would have what this attack can chain into.
Okay.
At a basic level. So when you draw this card, this is what it is, and this is what it can chain into. And that could be color coordinated. So this is a blue card, part of the blue chain sequence that chains into another blue card, which could be, you know, bash. Let's say a blue middle bash is its basic chain.
So this would chain into a basic. So I'm just going to use this as a symbol,
Yeah.
but so this can chain into this.
Basically, yeah. So that's gonna be your baseline card. That's its attack plus the chain or chains it can go into at a basic level. Now, the color coordination I'm not too sure about because I feel like there's gonna be more chains and there's gonna be colors realistically. But at a basic level, yeah, that's essentially how it's gonna go. Or maybe there is no color here and the colors are based on. The color thing I'm still trying to work out in my head how that's going to work. But essentially, you're saying this is a top slash and it can chain into a mid slice. And that's what it's limited to. Now, if you had a side slash, maybe it can chain into multiple directions of slice. Maybe it can do top, middle, or bottom because the middle chains are supposed to be lower damage, but the more chain options, right? So you can kind of change what a card can kind of chain into. And you could have multiple types. You know, you could have a high slash. You could have multiple types of high slash. And maybe one goes to bashes, one goes to something else. You know, we can figure all that out. But this is essentially your basic what the card can do. It's a close range attack, deals this much damage. This is the direction it's coming from. And this is what it can chain into. And the direction it can chain into. And then in the experience box, this wouldn't be, I don't know if this would be so much experience, but this would be kind of the upgrade version of it. So, and this wouldn't apply to every weapon. This would apply to weapons that specifically say to use this box at a specific time. So, potentially, the katana might say you can use the experience box if it's a close range attack. And you're at the experience level. But maybe a Naginata wouldn't give you that. So, you know, because it's a close range attack, Naginatas aren't really good at chaining into close range attacks, so it's not going to get the bonus benefit. Like, if you're an experienced katana user, you may not be using this gray box because it's a close range experienced card. That makes sense.
Kinda.
So your weapon is going to dictate what technique cards you get better at. So you can use any card, but specific weapons will also dictate what cards are getting better for you.
So certain cards will be more powerful based on the weapon you're using?
Yes, essentially. So that's kind of where your affinity factor kind of comes in, where it's not so much, hey, this card doesn't give me chain bonuses or anything like that. Now it's kind of like you can get more stuff with this basic card if you use it with a weapon that makes sense. So, like, you're probably not doing a lot of thrusts with a Kusurigama. So it's probably not going to have thrusts as one of its experienced upgrades. So you can still use a thrust, but it won't be really weapon focused on it. And that's kind of where you're going to get people to build chains that make sense for the weapons. You're kind of guiding them towards that build. So, you know, if, hey, nobody can chain thrust except, you know, the Yari or the Naginata, now people are going to, who have those weapons, will grab more of them because they're going to get the bonuses of them.
It doesn't, like, I feel like there's some things different, but I don't feel like it's that different from what the game is already. I feel like it's like a little more complex version of what, like, I don't see how the experience is that much different from like the Affinity or the you know, like I structured this way, like, okay, this high cut goes in this low, in this mid slash. Like, I don't see how that's that much different from doing, like, I know like word wise the high cut goes in the high cut in my version, but I don't see how it's that much different. Like, I could easily just change what it can chain into on the other card type that I have. You know, like if I was looking at, I don't know if I have one open here, but oh yeah, I do. Like, if I had the other symbols here, which they're not, but I don't see how it's that much different from if I did like high cut into, like, if I just changed it to be the slash symbol is colored. You know, I don't see how that's too much different.
Well, I don't want to make it too much different. That wasn't, you know, your combat system works. I like the way it worked. It's not, you know, it shouldn't change too much from what it was. But what this does, it lets you have better control, because you kind of had just like 3 chain colors on the card, right?
Had 3 chain colors on the card. You mean like what it can chain into?
Right.
I believe so. Actually, let me open up. I think I have one here. Well, it depended. It depended on how strong the attack was. Like, if the attack was a high cut, it was only able to chain into one other type of attack. And specifically,
right.
it was the cut, because that was the katana's thing. Like, there was a logic to the, like, I just felt like I thought somewhat about the things that, not, I didn't have this exact idea what you're having, but I tried to make it more simple, because I didn't feel like people would, like, I felt like it would be a little easier to pick up, and a little, I mean, maybe the logic of it is not there. Like, maybe high cut into high cut doesn't make sense in terms of, like, you know, whatever it is, but I just felt like it was a clearer path for someone that's like not a good deck builder, or not like, you know, doesn't know this stuff like in and out. Like, it'd be a little easier for them to sort of pick it up, I guess, is where I was at. Like, I simplified my combat because I wanted it to be easier for someone to understand to some extent, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fine. As I said, my main thing is, at the end of the day, the important part of the combat is how much damage you're dealing, right? And the direction. Those are the biggest determining factors. So, you know, if your highest damage cards are all top cards, if I'm trying to make the best deck possible, I'm just going to want to grab top cards over and over again, because the other cards just aren't as good. And you could say, oh, well, they can chain and that stuff. Well, yeah, but so can all the high attack cards can keep chaining into themselves. And that's where, in this way, you can kind of control that, and then you can understand where the chains go. So if you know this is a high card 7 and it can only chain into 3 damage attacks, because you define those as this is what it can chain into. You know the best you can do damage-wise is 10. You know it can go from a 7 to a 3, because you've controlled that. And now, what you can say is, if you're experienced with this, you can now chain this into a 5 damage attack, because you're adding that additional chain option for the card. But you're controlling what the game can do. You're not giving the player, hey, grab whatever you want. You're kind of forcing them into a specific mold, because you want to control how, like, the max and the min of the card, where if you just say, hey, you know, slashes chain into slashes, someone can just grab 5 high slashes, and now they're just dealing 25 damage. Right.
I do see the I do see what you're saying in terms of, like, I mean, that was in some ways purposely done, but at the same time, I do see what you're saying with, like, oh, I'd go to I want to grab the higher damage. I mean, of course that's the case.
Right.
I just
and that's where the combat really kind of is the best when you're thinking of, well, can I chain a low attack into a high attack? Or, you know, because now you're as a defender, you gotta think, should I block this? Should I let my armor tank this damage because he's trying to chain into something more powerful that I'd rather block? Or are you just gonna chain endlessly with these small little cuts to the death? And you know, that's where you throw in all that spice of armor and items and all of that cool stuff and experience levels and endurance and strength and all that stuff kind of compounds into make this really interesting, intricate fight without overcomplicating. Because you know, at the end of the day, you're playing this card, and then this is what it can chain into. So you're restricted in what it can go into. You know, I can do this and this, and you can kind of play your hand out, the order you want to play it, the chains, how they work. Oh, I want to cycle something. I'm going to play this chain. I'm going to see if I can get it off. That's the kind of decisions I want people to be thinking about, because then it's more interactive. You know, if you're just saying, I'm playing this card, well, I'm just going to play my defense card because that's obviously going to block it. You know, I don't want that kind of interaction.
Well, the defense aspect, I know the defense probably needed like a little work. I guess like when I was thinking I guess when I was thinking of the like how defense functions, it's like it is kind of, that's just like how defense works in real life. It's like you deflect it or you don't, or you dodge it or you don't. Like there's not really like I mean, I'd like to make it a little more like I don't mind the idea of the changing the direction of the discard. I'm just trying to think of the best way to go about it without making it too complicated to the point where someone in a combat needs to check this card and then check this and then check this, because once you need to check all these different things, it really adds a lot of time to the game. Like it really does. Like that was one of the big things that impacted it, was like that people needed to like check a lot of things, or they needed to think about like someone like Marcos. He's a little slower in terms of his like decisions, even in like Magic and stuff. It's like for people like that, it can really bog it down if they have to check a lot of different stuff. And that's why I tried to keep everything very strictly on like there was really only one other thing you were checking, and that was the weapon you were using. Like if I was using the katana, the affinity was clear that I need these, like I'm working katana, so I want to grab katana affinity cards, and I'm not saying that it can't be more complicated in terms of like cut goes into a strike, or cut goes into a slash, you know what I mean? Like that sort of aspect, I'm not actually against making the like that part make a little more sense, and I'm also not against the bashing being a little more interesting in the way that you're saying, like bashing being able to chain into this other thing, or it being used a little more as like a chain type of move. Like I don't mind the idea of moves being the deciding factor into what something can chain into and things like that. I'm just a little concerned about doing all these checks, checking the armor, checking the experience, checking this. It's just when you have so many checks, it really makes it difficult. It makes it difficult. It makes it slower, and it makes it difficult.
That won't change within a combat, which is why it's fine. Like if you're wearing armor, you know it blocks 2 damage. So whenever you play it on a card, you know it's going to be -2, and it's not going to change throughout the fight. It's going to be -2 to whatever your attack card is. So it's, you know, and then okay, I have strength 2, so my attacks deal 2 more damage. Okay, that cancels itself out, so you don't have to worry about anything. So that'll all be determined at the start, right? Like, and it's not going to be something to update or change. It's just going to be something you know about. Like, he's wearing armor, I have strength 2. That's it. And then, you know, any buffs or bonuses that come from your weapon. So it's not a lot of checks, and there's also not a lot of cards being played. Like at most you're playing 5 per person. The current setup, Obviously, I'd like to see more. Let's be honest. I'd like to see 7 to 9 hands at the end of the game because I feel like that's a cool progression to.
That's crazy. That's
but
crazy.
But it's only at the end of the game. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. Like it's gonna be like last turn, somebody might have maxed out their endurance, and you might have a really cool battle where 9 cards or almost 20 cards between the 2 players are thrown down, and that's a cool way to end the game.
I got 9 cards in hand.
The whole game. That's the. I agree. I don't want to see 20 cards every turn. I want to see it only towards the end and only specific people who focused on their endurance to do that. That's kind of what I want to see. Then some other guy's just sitting there with the big heavy armor and max strength that just bashes you once and caves your head in. Like that's what I want to see because I think that'd be hilarious.
What is her name, Mona Lisa?
Amelia Mona? I don't know. Sorry, bro. I'm paying attention to what you're saying.
But no, I agree. You don't want a lot of checks, but I feel like there's 3 checks here, right? Like there's the weapon, the armor, and the strength. Like that's it. Minus, a potential item somewhere in there. But like those are your checks, right? That's your really only modifiers that you're gonna be looking for in a combat. And that's pretty straightforward. And then the only other check you really have is what can my card chain into, but you should already have that kind of planned out in your hand, right? Like you should know what your kind of game plan is, and if you don't like what's in your hand, you can chain and do the cycle. Or, potential more powerful chain effects that let you draw or things like that, that will kind of enhance your combat. But once again, at the end of the day, when you're playing a card, it shouldn't be hard to determine what your next move is going to be. Does this chain into this or not? And we can make visually that more straightforward. Either through colors or whatever. So that's easy to identify. But once again, as a player who's building their deck and knowing their weapon and all that stuff, you should kind of know what's in your hand. You don't want to have checks where you got to check, oh, what's my opponent using? Oh, he's using a Naginata. Is that with my... No, you don't want to check that. You want, your weapon type, you know what it can do, you know the bonus that you're getting from your weapon. That's part of one of those 3 checks. And you know the order that you're going to play your hand. So your checks aren't going to depend on your opponent. The armor check is, but, that's going to be straightforward. It reduces this much damage. Straightforward.
I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense overall. I'd like to see... I want to see it play out, and I do want you to send me what you put together. Amelia Mona, I am responding to you. Thank you so much for typing so many wonderful messages in my chat. I really appreciate it. You know very well more than me, for sure. And I'm listening to this other dude because he's my brother. Me and him are brothers. By blood. By blood! You understand? Blood is thicker than wine! Do you understand? Blood is thicker than wine. That's what they say. No, not wife. Blood is thicker than wine. Wine. And my wife's name is Mona, so... Yes. Welcome. Sorry. They're getting a little rowdy in the chat. Riling them up. He said 20 cards. You play 20 cards. 20 cards between 20 players.
20 players.
Yes, my wife's name is Mona. Mona Lisa. We have another Mona that exists apparently. Interesting. Well, so for the checks and stuff, I just want to minimize that as much as possible. If I want to see how it plays out, I want to get someone like Marcos, who's like a big pain in the ass. I want to see his brain function with this. I want to see him be like, oh, it's too slow. He always got something to say. He's always got something to say. Frickin' Marcos.
Well, I can help you. As I said, I have a Excel doc here that I have all the defense cards kind of written out and kind of what their upgrades would move into, because those are pretty straightforward.
Well, send that to me. I mean, I want to see what you wrote up, because in terms of the in terms of what I didn't really put anything together this week. It was nuts. So please send that to me. I want to see that, and also I want to see what you had written up about the like the different attack types. I want to see about, because you said there was 5 attack types, and I do want to see what you were thinking in terms of that as well. I want to. It's easy. Sometimes it's easier for me to read it too, because I like to kind of like read stuff and look at it over and over again. In terms of the structure of the, I in some ways I do. Well, I remember we were talking about the experience before. I appreciate you thinking it looks pro. I tried my hardest. I remember we were talking about the experience stuff, and I think that I do like that aspect of it. And I did put some notes about that the last time that I was going to look at. I kind of just I somewhat forgot, like gaining the general XP for doing actions, and stuff like that. Like I think that we can do something with that. And you were saying that the XP is like among all, like you choose how to allocate it, or is it like XP, it's just straight XP, like, okay, I get this XP and then now I can do this sort of thing, or depending on what weapon I'm using. Is it just like XP for among everything, or is it like I'm training in the specific type or the weapon? Like, what were you thinking about that?
So I'm trying to remember what was that. Okay, so the XP is gonna be relating to the weapon for the most part. Except there's gonna be, I guess, 2 types of XP. The one is that's gonna be related to your weapon, and the other one's gonna be like physical training. That's gonna be more related to your strength or endurance level. So when you do training, doing fights, that's how you're gonna get experience on your weapon. And you're going to have to hit a certain amount before you can get to the next level, in addition to also needing to having some kind of threshold, like beating a player or a specific bandit level or something like that, to kind of test your skill. Before you can, because otherwise you don't want people just sitting in a training dojo all day. Obviously, certain things might give you more XP and stuff like that. So that's kind of like your basic, like, progression to kind of earning stuff to get higher. And then, that's basically going to be based on the cards you're drawing, events you're participating in, like how much XP you're getting. And then you can set those limits specifically. But that's kind of like the progression system. You did something, you're getting something for it. It's progressing the things that you care about: your weapon, your endurance, or your strength. Yeah. And then additionally, you have the card, the deck building aspect. When you do trainings and when you do fights, potentially, you're drawing new technique cards that are building your deck and making it stronger. And then, or getting rid of the lower, weaker cards. So all of that is part of the progression. And then, you're going out buying items, buying armor, I mean, I had like ideas like you have to be a certain strength level to use what the heck do you call the other weapon? The Kabuna.
The Tetsubo? Kanabo? There's no Kanabo.
Kanabo.
No, there's no. It's a Tetsubo.
Shibuku.
I think that thing has multiple names. I think Tetsubo literally just means iron stick.
I think Kanobo is the right weapon. As a matter.
Yes, my bloodhound. I'm very busy with my bloodhound. You're very correct. I don't have time to focus on how awesome my hairstyle looks.
Kanabo is the famous one.
Jesus.
Right, I sent you.
Jesus. You sent me the Excel doc?
Yeah.
Oh. Nice. On Discord? On email? Oh, by email? Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, so, you know, different strength levels for wearing armor. You know, that's another way you can limit people from just rushing and buying heavy armor. What else did I have? I had helmets. So you can block your head. I had a Jingasa.
Yeah, the Discord link is on my profile. If you'd like to join the Path of Senshi Discord. I'm gonna look at this. Excel sheet right now. Hold on. Why is it opening up over there? Oh my gosh! What did I just move over here? There we go. Oh, you sent it to my, I got you. Hold on 1 second. Oh, nice. Good standard damage and chaining. Good chaining, low damage. Standard damage and chaining. High damage, chain, ender. So this is for the defensive cards? Oh, defensive actions.
Yeah.
Offensive actions. Precision. Discard a card to ignore opponent's armor. High attack requires 2 discards. Basic defense. Experienced defense. Enhanced high deflect. Enhanced center deflect. Standard damage and chaining. Good chaining, low damage, standard damage, chaining. You got slash, slice, cut.
Yeah.
This is the Excel sheet that my blood brother put together for of his ideas for the different attack types in the board game. Stun. Trip. Special properties. Oh, I fell down. Now I can't attack anymore.
What?
Nah,
Yeah,
I
well,
was,
no,
I was
it's usually
thinking
related to discards.
the discards.
You'd have to discard extra, like if you're off balanced or something else.
Oh. That makes sense.
Make it hard to defend.
This is a board game I'm designing. It's called Path of Senshi. It's like a samurai deck building fighter game that we're putting together. It's gonna be free for people to play on Tabletop Simulator. What's up, honey?
What hour?
Huh?
What hour?
What? What are you looking at? What about it? Hold on 1 second, Bradley.
What hour?
Oh, whatever. You could It's not available yet. The game's not available. It's in development. We're developing it right now.
$50 right now.
$50. Send me $50 and you can play the game. No, it's not ready yet. It's not ready. This is development. This is development. We're playing. We're building it together. I'm building a community. I'm building people, and it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a great game.
My helmet?
You went over my helmet? I have that GIF up right now. What? Man, I said it perfectly. This is cool, Bradley.
Yeah, so, you know, I haven't built up the attack cards because I didn't really know where to go with them. But essentially, you know, my thinking is that because direction's more important than attack type, but attack type is also still a factor there. Because attack type kind of is the attack type is kind of deciding what it's gonna do. You know, bashes, cuts, they're gonna be your chaining cards. You're gonna want those in your deck so you can chain higher. You know, and you know the low damage means that they're not likely to be blocked. So they might not even deal any damage if someone's wearing armor, but the whole point is that you can either cycle, you know, if you have chain cycling and stuff like that. So, you know, you want to have some attacks get through. You want to have them non-super threatening, but, you know, kind of, because you want to see cards get played. You don't want every card to be blocked. You want to see the back and forth. Like, that's what's going to make the combat interesting, and seeing who comes out on top at the end. And, you know, my idea behind the low, like, kind of make you discard extra cards, because now, you know, a low attack is probably not likely going to be blocked, like a low bash. Nobody's going to, it's going to maybe deal 1 damage, and someone's going to be like, yeah, I'm wearing armor, so I'm going to deal damage to me. But now, because of that, you're off balance, and now they're going to throw out a high attack, damaging card, that now, if you don't have the card, they're going to be discarding extra cards, or maybe they have to discard a card extra anyway. So now they're going to waste their block trying to block that low attack, and now you're hitting them with the higher damage. So those are the kind of decisions I want the defense to make. Like, is this attack worth blocking? But I don't want it to be like every attack is super damaging. I want attacks to be more chain focused. I want the chains to come out. I want that to be the real way you get through your cards and get to good important stuff. So I want it to be a big benefit to chain. But not, it can't be too big, because otherwise then people are always going to just spend the defense card. Hey, let me stop this. So it's got to have a good balance between scary but not vital to always stop, you know. So that's going to be the tricky part, trying to balance that.
Yeah, I see that.
But at the end of the day, you can't win by defending, right? Because the chance of you able to perfectly block everything is basically 0. You know, with equal hand sizes. Obviously, if you have more endurance and more cards in hand or something like that, if that's a thing, you know, then, you know, that plays differently. You know, or if you have heavy armor, and, you know, you're not too worried about the low damage stuff, you know, but that's where, hey, maybe you don't care about blocking this attack because it's not dealing any damage because your armor's high enough to block all the damage, but it's chaining into something that is more threatening, and now you're off balance and you're going to get smacked in the face. Or, you know, that's why I threw that precision offensive action in there, because I feel like that's a really good way to force somebody's hand.
Yeah.
So you're choosing to spend a card to make it basically guarantee a hit through opponent's armor. And that's kind of a balance to armor just kind of tanking damage. And now, now they have to now you're kind of forcing them, otherwise they're going to get hit with something. And now they're getting hit, and you're getting the bonus of chaining. So now they really want to, you know, that's worth the discard to get it in there. But now you can get tricky with it. Do you play a precision attack on a cut? And now it's a low damage attack that they don't really want to block. But now because you're saying, oh, it's precision, now it's going to deal more damage. So it's just cool ways of kind of manipulating the combat so nothing feels too samey. You want to have that variety, and I think with the 6 different weapons, you can make 5 cards feel like a million.
Discard a card to change your defense card's range. Discard a card to change your defense card's direction. Discard a card to ignore opponent's armor.
Right. And that's also why I want hand size to increase, because I want to see this be more interesting.
High attacks required. I mean, I'm not entirely against increasing the hand size, but I'm telling you, sometimes
I'm fine with 5 to start, and once again, I think the max you would get to is 9. Like, I'm thinking 4 endurance levels, and same thing with strength, like 4 strength levels, which give +1 damage for every strength level, or +1 to your hand size for every endurance level. And that's not going to be like, hey, I get an endurance. It's going to be like, train 4 times to get endurance or something. So something that it takes progression and takes time, and by doing that, you're sacrificing what could be building out your deck. So you're balancing hand size with damage, with what's in your deck, and you're balancing these systems to kind of try to make your fighter the way you want him to be. Do you want to just go all strength and all bashes and just punch your opponent to death? Like, go for it. Have fun. See what works.
Well, I kind of see what you're saying about the looking at this Excel sheet. I can kind of see what you're thinking in some ways here. I'm a little. I feel like it's gonna be tough to make to put together like the balancing for like what these sorts of like chains and stuff do, and everything like that. Like what can chain into what, and like I don't know.
I think the basic is that high attacks shouldn't be able to chain into high attacks.
Yeah.
Because they're the highest damage. So they're really to either they're an opener or an ender. Like they're not your mid-chain kind of thing for the most part. You're kind of gonna either start with that or you're gonna end with that, which is how it should be. Like that would make sense. Then your flexibility is coming from your lower damage attacks that are going in the mid or low portion of the body, and really deciding whether or not you want to kind of options of chaining, or do you want to manipulate your opponent's ability to counterattack in some way. And that can all be decided on what the cards do specifically.
Now in terms of the structure, some of the stuff, is like I'm a little concerned about trying to fit it all, like fit certain stuff on the cards. Maybe I don't know. I got I don't know, like just like the organization of it, like if you have like this experienced box, like isn't that gonna have I don't know. I don't want the cards to be visually confusing either, which is like all part of when I design this stuff, like when I'm designing the game. Actually, in some ways, the me not being able to fit stuff on the card is what influenced some of the changes of the game, which is pretty funny.
No, and I think what you have, up here works great. I think, you can just have some symbol to indicate this is what's chainable. Make the main attack indicator a little bigger, and then make the chaining a little smaller in size, and I'm sure you can do a lot of symbols there. There's not going to be a lot of text on the cards, on the technique cards themselves. The bonuses are going to come really from your weapon.
Okay.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah, well, that's how I originally added, I think.
Yeah, because you want the cards to be versatile, and you don't really want to hold them to a specific thing. You want the weapon to determine what you're doing, not the technique. The technique should be basic. Everybody should be able to do every technique card, and it should all feel kind of natural.
I agree with you.
And then, once again, the weapon will determine, okay, this is why you can do a high slash into a high slash, because you're a master katana user who's mastered that art, where Naginata can't do that. Even though you have the same technique card, Naginata's not designed to do 2 downward attacks in a row. So it won't have that kind of chain potential because it's a close range attack, and Naginata's more of a mid-long range weapon. So that's how you're controlling the flow of how powerful a card is. And that's, once again, it's kind of diving into where you had affinity before. It's just using it in a way that's a little less, oh, I see a katana on a card, that's what I want. It lets people be a little more choosy with what they want to do. You're still presenting what's there. They know what weapon they have, they know what their weapon does, what bonuses it gives. But I don't like the idea of, I draw a katana card. I'm just gonna grab that because I have the katana. Like, I feel like that's too simple.
You think that's too simple, huh?
Yeah.
It's
they're not deck building. It's like,
I mean, you kind of are,
like in
though.
Magic. I give you a forest deck, and you draw a green card. Oh well, obviously I'm grabbing that because I got forest. Like, you don't.
Well, okay, but that's not true. That's not what I want. I think I think in its fundamental form, that is easy for people to understand. It's easy for people to pick up. It's easy for people to play. For me personally, in terms of like. That I wanted there to be it to have that simplicity, okay, the katana cards, grab katana, like you want to grab katana cards, you can make a pretty strong build with that. But I wanted there to be other builds that are maybe even a little more power to them, but it takes a little more skill of deck building, like, and understanding the game to be able to create those, rather than, just going for katana because I have katana cards. Like, I wanted there to be like a simple, like a simplistic meta for people to catch on to, and then a more deep one. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, in my opinion.
Colors that way, then. Maybe instead of having colors being tied to the weapon attack type, it's gonna be a color is a chain, and you have different chains, and that's where in the experience box you can potentially start switching chains. So this is the basic blue chain. It goes this, and we can write out what those chains are. This is the basic chain of how this works, and then the experience box will kind of expand on that and allow you to start switching mid-chain to a different chain, kind of thing.
So I'm thinking, what if it was like the chain, like, okay, someone could build a katana deck, right? Like, let's say it was based around katana, and like, it's easy to make it work well. It works functionally, but you're not gonna get like maximum power unless you're like, okay, you were saying, it's dumb to chain a high attack into another high attack. But what if you were able to do that if you like crossed colors, crossed that's where you start to build the more crazy decks. Is like, instead of chaining, I chain blue cut into blue cut, and that, like, blue cut might only be able to chain into like a low cut or like a low strike or something like that. But if you crossed colors, like if you built it in whatever weapon combo you could do, maybe you would be able to chain from a high cut into a high slash or a high thrust or something. You know what I mean? Like, you could gain more damage output by there's we make ways to get that, but that level isn't as easy. Like, it takes a little more playing of the game and understanding to be able to create that sort of effect, rather than it be but I still like the idea of having, like, I know you didn't like, green, you just grab green. Like, but I think that's why they do that in these games on purpose. Like they do that in games like any game, like literally every game that I can think of that has these sorts of like color affinities. Like its basic form is I can build a basic blue deck, but there's obviously a weakness to just doing blue. Like in Star Realms, like I could just build a blue deck and I can probably make it pretty strong. But I can gain a ton of life and maybe I'll get that one, but it's lacking the power. And then in something like Magic, I can build a just blue deck, and yes, it's very strong with control, but it's also again lacking power. So maybe so I don't think that there's anything wrong with, but someone who doesn't know the game can easily pick it up. Like you can easily pick up a blue deck. Like I could build a blue deck or a green deck or something like that pretty easily because of the entry into the game. It makes the entry into the game easier for new players. It makes it easier for people who aren't that good at deck building or aren't that good at building those crazy combos. Building those linkage. But if I mix blue and black in Magic, I'm getting something really a lot stronger than maybe just a mono. Just going that mono color. But the mono color itself isn't weak inherently. It's just not, you're missing on options.
Then, in theory, we could make a colored chain. You can make a set of cards that equal a chain. You have this blue chain, and these are the blue cards that fit into this blue chain. And these cards will chain into themselves. And then, maybe high cards don't have a color because they don't chain into things or something along those lines.
Well, what if it was like, okay, a blue high cut can chain into a blue mid cut, but a blue high cut can chain into a red high slash, like I can get that extra damage output by crossing colors, by crossing that boundary. But there still is that base of like, oh, if I grab these blue cards, I can still chain into something blue, but it's not. It obviously wouldn't be at the strength level of if someone was able to chain into the red. Or chain into whatever we made it. What if it was something like along those lines instead? I mean, I don't know how I don't really know how you'd fit these combos on the cards or making it like these. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but
you see right there. You can have potentially 4. You got all 4 attack types in a circle. Like Magic the Gathering got the 5 colors in like a little wheel. You could fit those all in there.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But with the directions, it becomes like a whole other thing, and it can. I have to design it right to make it.
I wouldn't have I would say direction is just consistent. Like if whatever it chains into, it's not gonna be only a high bash or a mid thrust or a low cut. No, it's just gonna be this direction or these 2 directions.
Yeah.
Or these 3 directions. It's not going to be like only this attack goes to only this. It's like no, just this. This is the direction you're going. Because really, at the end of the day, it really comes down to high or not, right? Like center and low are kind of gonna be interchangeable for the most part. It's the high damage from the high attack that's really kind of the one you want to limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I it's tough. There's a lot. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with like what I want to focus on, like what I need to do, like what I should do. The reason I kind of also took a break this week is because I was kind of overwhelmed with like where I should really start moving in a direction here, because I know when I start moving in that direction, I don't want it to just like, end up me having to redo everything all over again. You know what I mean? I want the time to be.
That's playtesting. You do something, see if it works. If it doesn't, you gotta go back to the drawing board. That's how it goes.
Well, I get that, but I also want the decision to be very informed. Like, and not there's no reason to I just don't want to stray like crazy like out of the way. I didn't feel like it wasn't not. I didn't feel like it. I felt like it was working to an extent. Like I didn't feel like there was so much that was like wrong.
No.
That's why I've been like kind of like hesitant. I've thrown shit into the fire before.
Well,
And this is, and I will say this is, well, this is the best that I've had. Like this is where it is right now is the best that I've gotten it, in my opinion. Of all the games that I've played, this is the best that I've gotten it.
As V2 and then work on V3. If you don't like V3, you throw V3 in the fire and you go back to V2. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So,
I gotta think about these chain things. I'm not
well,
Go ahead.
I got all the standard offense cards right now in the Excel file, so I would say write out what's the longest chain can be 3.
3, but it's technically 4 because it's chaining, like you're chaining 3, like you're chaining 3 from. Oh, I guess. Yeah.
So potentially 4 cards in a row.
Potentially 4 cards. I mean, I can make it 3. It doesn't have to be 4.
Well, I mean, the chances of someone having 4, you gotta be at like the highest level anyways, right? So.
Yeah.
You know, you can write out the full thing. It shouldn't really matter. But essentially, like, write out what you would like. I would write out a color, and be like, what should this chain sequence be? How would we get there? You know, because a high slash may not be able to be chained into. Maybe it's only a chain starter, and that's where I'm saying it's like maybe it won't have a color. It'll chain into a color, but maybe baseline it won't have a color. Same thing with a chain ender. Maybe it'll just not have a color. It'll have something to chain into it, but once it's there, it just ends. So, write out the color chains, I would say, like what should be able to chain into what, and they're gonna kind of be fluid, right? Some of them should be able to chain into each other, and then just kind of see what comes up.
Mm.
The only thing I have here is that you like the way I wrote it, like bash and cut will probably be able to chain and be chained from multiple. So you'd have to kind of determine how that's going to work.
Bash and cut will be chained into multiple.
Yeah, so cut and bash are supposed to be very chainable. They're supposed to be like extra good at chaining because they're not going to deal a lot of damage. So they're kind of more chain focused. So they'll have more potential to go into more colors at a basic level, in theory.
Yeah.
Then something like the slash or the slice, which will be more, I go from this to this, and not really much else. And then you get to like the thrust, where it's like it doesn't chain at all. It just you stab somebody and that's it.
Unless you have spear, which could be busted.
A spear or a naginata, where you would stab multiple times, and that's its bonus, and that's its benefit. And then
seems pretty busted to me.
Well, you can only chain 2 times, so get it once again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a big deal.
How are you gonna say that? You can only chain. Yeah. I guess you can only chain
twice, right? Once at the basic level.
Once at the basic level.
But even then, you can just, I mean,
you can still defend it.
Play the card. If it's not defended, then you can just play another one. You're not technically chaining. You're just playing the next card.
Yeah. So, is there still an issue with that?
No.
Like, do you still feel like there's an issue there?
Yes. I feel like the defender needs a chance to play their cards too.
Nah.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't work. There's no way to make it work. Other than the defending.
If you don't chain, if the attacker doesn't chain, it lets the opponent play an attack card. Very simple. And
if the opponent doesn't chain.
Yeah, so I'm the attacker. I play a card, I hit you. I don't have a chain off of that card. I basically pass the initiative over to you. And then you can play a card, an attack card, and if it hits, you have the option to chain. You can't chain, it goes back to the other player.
We could try that. I'm not saying I'm not saying I can't. I'm not saying that can't be a change.
And then once again, if you can't play a card, you pass. If 2 passes, combat ends.
Yeah, I think that was one. I think that was one issue I had, was like the attacker has to play all the cards from his hand, and if he can't attack, then what? The defender just gets to just play his attack cards, and then what? That was kind of how it ended up. But me and Koski tried that, and it wasn't good. I'm telling you, me and Koski tried that exact thing that you're describing, because the defender always won. The defender always won. Me and Koski did a play test where, because the attacker would just, the defender would just waste the attacker's cards, and then the attacker would just be like attack, and then that was it. And then every hit hit the defender. That's one. Okay, so this is, I just want to say, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to change the thing. Like, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to change the combat, was because it's even. It is fair. When me and Koski did the playtest of, like, we just kind of threw a deck together and we just kind of like played it. It was almost 50-50 defending win, attacking win. It was almost 50-50.
I mean,
and that's good. That's how you want it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I can run the numbers on it, but I don't think that having the defender being able to attack will change that much. Because once again, a defensive card has a 1 in 6 chance of blocking without spending a card. So you're still 1 for 1. You play 1 defensive card against 1 attack card, you're 1 for 1, right?
Well, hold on. Before you do this, let me add another level to this. The attacker is risking so much more by doing what he's doing. He's paying coins, and he's also using an action to attack you. If you do that and then give the defender everything that the attacker can do, it really ruins the balance of even attacking in the first place, because the attacker is the one risking everything. I don't think the defender should be at I don't think the defender should have an advantage over the attacker in that sense.
The defender's running a risk too, though, because he's defending his base and potentially losing victory points.
But he doesn't have to, and especially if we add in the part where the minions can defend and stuff like that, which I still want to do. I don't think that. I really don't think that we should change that part. I really don't think we should change the. And the attack and the defender can get attacks in. I just don't think he should be able to be at the same level that the offensive player is, because he's not the one attacking it. He's just trying to defend his place. He's not trying to he's not trying to be offensive. Like, that's not. I don't know. I feel like it throws it a little off. It just feels a little off in that way. I'm not gonna change that part.
I think
unless I'm somehow convinced by it, but I'm still not convinced by it.
I think you can lower the risk of the attacker by not making them have to pay coins or something like that. Yes, just use an action, but you're gaining a potential victory point from stealing something, or you're getting a benefit. So you're obviously spending that action for a purpose that you think it's worth the risk of fighting somebody.
All right. Well, I want to say one thing about the game in general. Originally, it was really supposed to be like I'm thinking about these combats and these. I mean, I know it might sound a little boring to an extent, but I'm thinking about the fights in these Japanese movies, or these fights in these shows and stuff. They're not just slicing the shit out of each other. It's usually 1 or 2 strikes is the finisher. It's not I'm getting hit a bunch of times, and the fight was supposed to be quick and decisive, and mostly a threat. Like it should. Like I think that when me and you were playing, like you were just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna defend, and you were able to defend, but the risk that you were taking was so high. Like if you died, I mean, yes, you had the Tanto and everything. I still think about this when we went, and every time we played, because I played with Jackie and I played with you and I played with Koski. Every time we played, the risk was so high, and you were mad. You were like, oh, the fucking this guy's too strong. This NPC is too strong. But like that's the point. It's supposed to be such a high risk. It's like you don't. These fights aren't supposed to just be like a willy-nilly thing. You know, it wasn't supposed to be willy-nilly. It was supposed to be, this is the doom. This is the blade of doom. The sword of doom.
You're a sword of doom.
So, but that was like the fundamental of what it originally was. But I will say, okay.
Be right back.
Okay, sounds good. Fucking idiot.
No.
This person.
Oh, exactly. she left.
Yeah.
The problem is it's live streaming. Imagine there is more than one person watching. We cannot pay attention to just one person.
It doesn't. Well,
and also she wants attention from
no,
a married man.
No. Listen, it's all just you just ignore
No,
it.
when I know I'm jealous when a girl says "ow" about your hair. Why? You just said that your wife is here. What? Are you insane?
No.
Also,
Just don't let it bother you.
did you give her your Discord? She wants to be with.
No, it's
Alrighty.
No.
Well,
right. So I just wanted to say one other thing.
I get that.
I wanted to say one other thing. I do think that I strayed away, like in some ways intentionally, but like unintentionally, from the like how you have it, where it's like slash bash, like these things interacting more realistically, and I do want to bring it back to that, but I still feel like the fundamental of the game's like logic, I still feel like is okay. Like certain things of it are still okay. I do think the combat can use this, like what you're trying to do here with like bash being like a good chaining point and like stuff like that. I actually like that, and I want that in the combat cards themselves. I'm just trying to think like I'm just trying to do like pieces at a time, and I still by my original logic of the game I still think is kind of right in terms of how it functioned. Like I felt like the risk was high. You there was always a high risk for you. Yes, you defended everything in the end, but I don't feel like that. I didn't feel like that was that wrong in some ways. Still, like I maybe the game just needs to be play tested more. I don't know.
Here's my thing.
Go ahead.
I think using those offensive and defensive actions like adjust, reposition, precision, I think that is gonna drain your hand. So you're still only gonna get a few hits in. I feel like when you factor in things like armor and things like that, it's gonna be more of what you want, which is the 1-2 strikes. You're not gonna have these long games of back and forth because, once again, defense has a 1 in 6 chance of blocking. So more than likely you're discarding 2 cards for a proper defense. And right there, that's half your hand. You know?
You're not wrong, and I'm okay with the like a little more back and forth. I'm not against it.
And this is where you can kind of control the defender and the offensive player. So the offensive player, this is where I'm kind of coming from. So the offensive player throws out his attack, it gets blocked. Defender throws out their attack, say it hits. Now, because he's not chaining anymore, it gives the attacker a chance to resume what he was doing, right? The attacker throws an attack, it hits. He doesn't have a chain, so he pauses. That now gives the defender a chance also to use the attack cards in his hand, but he doesn't have to, because he might have defense cards and he might want to spend those or might want to, save that. Maybe he has a really weak attack card. He wants to save it as a discard, for a more powerful defense card that he has, or that he can chain. So he has these options, like what he wants to do, and he can say, no, I'm gonna just chill. If he's not, because the thing I see, it's like once you get a hit on a defender, you kind of already are winning at that point, and now you don't want to attack, because if I deal 2 damage to you, I've won the fight.
Yeah, but you have to attack according to the rules.
That's the thing, though. It feels weird, though. Now I've won the fight, but I have to keep forcing myself to attack you to give you the chance to potentially counterattack and deal damage back to me. Like, you understand how that sounds? Like,
I
dealt 2 damage. I win.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna keep attacking
but you're right in some sense, but you're also in a fight. Like, it's not like, oh, just because you landed a hit, the fight's over. Like, it's not just because you cut my face a little bit, the fight's over. Or you cut my leg a little bit. It's not like the fight's over. It's like you still have the threat of what's going. Like, you're trying to finish. You're attacking. You're trying to finish. You're trying to finish it. You're not trying to just like deal a little cut. Like in the game fundamentals, yes. Like, okay, I dealt more damage, I'm winning. But like, it's like. I was thinking of Kung Pao. I don't know why. Making me the victor. But I'm trying, like, it's also a game too. It's also a game. So.
Well, yes, but remember, you don't want to use it's a game as a justification for a system that doesn't really feel natural. Like, once again, I get what you're going for. You want them to spend all their attack cards because it's a fight, but.
Well, I did that because it was like the way you're thinking of it. I couldn't make it work if it wasn't that way.
That's what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, the defender doesn't want to get hit more than he hits back. So he wants to strike at the attacker if the attacker strikes him. The attacker, on the flip side, wants to hit as long as they can keep hitting. So in theory, if they get 1 strike off and the defender has no attack cards, they win. Right? So the defender is going to do everything they can in their power to stop that from getting hit. Right?
Yeah.
But if they do, the attacker essentially...
Wait, hold on, you cut out.
So... you don't have that back and forth, though, if you get a strike and now you're forcing, oh, now I gotta play all my cards. Now, the attacker really kind of wants to swap their range so that they don't have to play their last card, in theory, so that they don't give the defender an opportunity to strike back. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of counterintuitive to how a fight should go. Like, if I'm striking at you and trying to take over your position, and I deal damage to you, you gotta show yourself back. And once again, a defender might have 4 attack cards in their hands, and that basically means they lose. And you could say, oh, well, they didn't prepare well. Well, maybe they drew bad, and now they're in a situation where they could definitely probably outfight you, and maybe maybe they're trying to build a more offensive deck, and they're not trying to focus on defense. And you can say, oh, well, it's a fault of them. But at the end of the day, it's bad when you have 4 cards in your hand and you're not playing them. And you lose a fight because you just couldn't play 4 cards from your hand. Like, I don't like that feeling.
What? Well, hold on.
In our fight, it didn't happen. Hey, go ahead.
Well, but it's impossible not to be able to play cards. Other than the last card is the only way.
No.
Yes. Yes.
No. If I have 5 attack cards as a defender, I cannot play any of them.
Well, why would you defend?
Because I don't want to lose 2 victory points.
But you can't. But that doesn't make any sense though. Like, you wouldn't. Like, you. That's part of the game logic, is like, if you have no defense, like if you didn't prepare your turn with defense cards because you didn't expect someone to attack you, and then all you have is offense cards because you were planning to do something else for yourself that turn, and someone attacks your thing, you lose it. Like, because you didn't put yourself in, you were made yourself vulnerable, and I mean, that's it. Like, I mean, that was part of the logic of the game, I think. Like, I think that kind of makes sense.
I don't know if I like it too much. I think
Well, fuck you.
I think the actual fighting of the deck is like actually seeing how they play out is more interesting. And once again, you can give the attacker or defender the option to retreat. So, you know,
No,
if,
no, no.
like listen, if the attacker attacks and the defender smacks him in the face and he realizes he's definitely going to lose this fight, he can be like, all right, I'm not going to continue.
No.
So he can end his, and then he gives up his claim to try to take over the thing, which is basically
you stepped up. You stepped up to face this person. You decided that you're like, I can beat this guy. I can beat this dude. I can do it. And you underestimated his skill in the blade. You can't just run. You think you're just gonna be able to? I'm just gonna run away. No, you.
Yes.
You're not gonna run away. You're not running away.
His defender's purpose is to defend his location. He successfully defended his location. He doesn't care if he hits you 5 times or 2 times, right? He's got his location. That's why he's there.
It's dishonorable. You can't just run.
Then go commit
coward.
But at the end of the day, fine, give him a dishonor point. I don't care.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Listen, this is kind of what I was saying. I know maybe you maybe don't like that part of the game a little bit. But I put you should be able to defend your territory without shuffling your entire deck.
Because I didn't like that aspect. I didn't like discarding my hand at the start of every turn because I wanted to get rid of all my basic cards and draw the cards I drew later on. Felt like that was a really awkward moment that really should probably be more of an action and less of a, hey,
Why?
this is just something you're doing every turn.
Why?
Because imagine in Star Realms if you can say, oh, I don't like this hand, I'm going to draw 5 new cards.
Yeah, but you're also restricted because you can only do it at that one time. You can't do it whenever you want.
Every turn, you're basically getting rid of 5 basic cards for free.
That's there. Okay, no, but the issue, but the thing is if your deck is if you're not drawing, but you could just draw a bunch more starter cards again if you're not thinning out your deck, and it allows the player to, when they start building this like combo thing that we're talking about, it allows the player to like set their hand up for the combo that they want to do, for the combo that they built their deck to do. And you're reducing the starter cards because you don't want to draw them. You don't want those to be the draw. Yes, you have the starter cards in your, it's inhibiting. The starter cards are like getting in your way. That's the whole point. And they are getting in your way because they're in your hand and you have to waste your time discarding them to draw maybe more starter cards, or maybe not. 12 cards is a lot of cards. I kept drawing starter cards that I didn't want. You know?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is that you draw a new hand, you play a combat, you draw a new hand. If you have 4 starter cards in your hand, is there any reason that you would ever not discard those?
Is there any reason you would not discard them? I mean, sometimes I didn't because the defense starter is not too bad. Like, the defense starter card isn't too bad. And I think that you were saying that... I tried to make the starter cards, like, somewhat useful. Like, they weren't useless entirely. They're, like, a little useful, but they're not as useful for when you start getting to the advanced level.
Make them useless. That's what they're supposed to be.
No. I don't think
yes.
that you're right. But you were just saying, is there a reason that I wouldn't discard it? And I think that a lot of people kept 1 or kept 2 because they didn't have a defensive card because
they only kept a defensive card. They never keep an offensive card because the offensive cards are stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
It should be an action, not a
But
free.
The defensive card costs you more victory points at the end of the game. Like it does. The defensive card costs negative 3 victory points. The offensive cards were only 2 or 1 or something. Oh. Yeah, that was the punishment.
Just make them.
Nah,
the the basic defense cards are could be very straightforward. Just they block this direction. That's all they can do. They can't chain. They just block. Easy peasy. Something you don't want. Something that's just there. It just does what it does. It's really just for discarding. Through the combat methods, discard a card to change, your direction or range. So, but that's more into game mechanic. Anyways, if you're in a fight, I think you should be able to use most, if not all, of it.
I am not convinced to changing all those aspects. I think the game works. I think the game works as it is. I think it works as it is. I can't deny it. I can't deny it in my heart because I've seen it. I played it. It does work. It just needs. I think some of the suggestions you've made are very good. Although I still am a little like in terms of like the enhanced stuff. I don't see. Okay, so we were talking about the defense cards being like you were saying they were too strong, is what you were saying. I don't see how. Like, let's just say.
Basically.
Let's just say we kept everything the same. We're not talking about all the new stuff that we were talking about. Let's just say we kept everything the same. If I made attack cards have these enhancements that you were talking about, and I made them attack from multiple directions, doesn't that, like, the progression of that, doesn't that make a little more sense in terms of, like, oh, like, I'm getting better with my sword, so my sword attacks are harder to defend against because I'm a higher level swordsman. And then the defense cards don't, like, they're not losing, like, they're getting weaker over time because the person's attack cards are getting stronger. Isn't there, like, some sort of logic there, don't you think? No. Bradley!
I think the benefit of offensive cards is to make them force out defensive cards prematurely. And they can do that through better chaining. I want chaining to be a scary, scary thing. I want it to be terrifying that you want to waste discarding a card to block an attack that only deals 2 damage because you're worried it's going to come and chain into something very scary. Because that's interesting.
But that already playing 4 cards. In some ways that already exists though. Like when I was playing against Koski and I played a low strike, like even though it was only 2 damage, he was like, I might just get like there was still the threat of the chain after being something stronger. There was still that threat in terms of like and then the resource management, like you're saying, oh, you could just play an attack if the person doesn't defend. Or if the person, like, if I didn't chain, I could just play another attack. That is true, to some extent. But I'm thinking about this rule that you're talking about. The attacker doesn't chain, the defender can play an offense card. I think that there might be something there, but I still feel like it...
Yeah, you're creating a pause by not chaining, which gives them an opportunity to counterattack. Once again, that makes chaining that much more important, and it also makes progression through the game more important because you get longer chains, you get more chain options, and because of that, it forces the hand of a defender because if you're not blocking and you're letting them chain, then you're getting less opportunities to counterattack. I'm not saying you have to let the defender play their whole hand. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when there's a pause, because, maybe it's only when there was a potential for a chain and they didn't chain. Like, or after an opener if they don't chain. I don't have a hard rule on this, but essentially there should be a way for the defender to attack without playing a defensive card.
Maybe they just can't. Maybe they just can't chain. Maybe they can only play that one offensive card, just to be a threat.
I feel like if you can chain, you can chain, and that forces the attacker to also have to bring defensive cards so that they can stop being hit as well. You know, I feel like chaining should be the end game. You want to be able to chain 3 cards in a row because it's going to give you bonuses and boosts. And as a defensive player, you want to stop somebody from chaining 3 times in a row because you want to not get hits in the face 3 times. So, you know, that's what should be scary. And if not chaining, you know, there's got to be significant bonuses and benefits and, you know, even like multiple chaining. Like, you want to have multiple chaining be even stronger than just a single chain. Like, you got to have ways of showing that progress of, this is terrifying, don't let this happen.
I do want chaining to be more scary.
It needs to be terrifying because at level 1 you can only chain 1 time, so it's, you know, it can only be so scary.
Well, okay, but I will say that this might be able to be resolved in the way that you're saying, in which high cut can't be chained into high cut, but high cut could be chained into like what we were saying before about like kind of making that dynamic of you know, katana deck being like, you know, everything I was saying before about that. I don't want to say it all again, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Well, that's it. And that's where you can make these chains and write them out and see where they play. And you want this to be your damage for a chain. This chain can deal this much damage. This chain can deal this much damage. And then you do the branches. Okay, well, what happens when you add another card onto this chain? What happens when you change to a different chain in the middle of this chain? Like, where can those chains go? And then you can kind of see where's the balance gonna be. Because at the end of the day, if all you have is close range weapon or attack cards, then you really don't have there's no benefit to chaining because you're always going to be in the right range, right? In theory. Besides, you know, the chaining can give extra effects. But in theory, you're always going to play your full hand if all your attacks are in the same range. Because there's no downside. Unless the opponent defends and counterattacks to change the range, right?
Say it again.
Otherwise,
wait, say again that last part.
The only way the range changes is if the defender counterattacks. If you have 5 close range attacks and your defender doesn't have any way of counterattacking at long range, you're going to play all 5 of your cards. The only way to switch that range is by the defender playing a close range defense card and then chaining into a long range attack.
I mean, unless you chain for your attack into a different range attack.
No, your hand is all close range. You're not going to change the direction.
Okay. If
You're not going to change the range. You're just going to have 5 close range cards in your hand.
Yeah. Okay. If it was, yeah. If that was...
Range doesn't matter to you anymore, except for the fact if someone defends against it and changes it.
Yeah.
Which at that point you can just wait, get hit, and then now you're at long range, discard a card, now you're close range again. And then you can continue playing your entire hand.
But you're still like the discarding a card was supposed to be a big resource, you know, sink.
And it's not a small resource.
Well, you're making it sound like it's willy-nilly. You're like, oh, you just discard card, and then you're at close range again, everything's fine.
Well, the defender has to do 2 things. They have to successfully defend your close range attack. And then they have to play a chain. Otherwise, you're staying close range. In which case...
No.
Yes.
No, because if the isn't it if the defender defends with a long range defense card, doesn't that change the range?
No. That's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
The defense cards are close or long range. They don't change the range. If you do a dodge, you're still in close range. If you do a deflect, you're still at long range. It's only when you play an attack card afterwards does the range potentially change. Not that it's guaranteed to.
Let me see.
Defense cards don't change the range. They're just a counter at the range being attacked from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're right about that.
So the only way you're changing the range is if the defensive player is playing an attack card, which is counterproductive to them to have attack cards in their hand in the first place, because they can't at current really use them unless they're chaining them. Which is where that pause and allowing the defender to counterattack gives them more variety to their hand. And allows them to kind of encourage them to do their chains and them to figure their thing out. And the other scenario is that if the defender has, or the attacker has a defense card, let's say the defender did a chain attack to attack the attacker, and now he plays his defense card to block it, there's not a super big incentive for him to chain off that now, because assuming he got a hit in earlier, I would just be like, oh, well, I already won. Why chain? Why give the defender a chance to fight back? You know, like, so my first attack hit, my second attack was blocked and chained by the defender. Now it's hitting the attacker. The attacker has a way of blocking it, and they can chain into a card to deal damage back. But they've already dealt damage, and let's say they blocked a close range attack and their chain would change it to a long range attack. They can just be like, oh, well, now I'm in close range. If I don't play my chain card, I don't have to play my last card because I can't change the range. So now I win.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the strategy was to, if the player is like katana player, you want the range to be long, so you're forcing them to suck.
But that's the thing. There shouldn't be a range limit to katana. Katana shouldn't be, oh, they should only be at close range, which is what I'm trying to get away from. Like, a katana should be able to do a thrust, which is a long range card. They should be able to do a slice, which is a long range card. It's not that they shouldn't have those cards in their deck. I don't want them to only have close range cards in their deck, because I'm looking at range as like kind of positioning distance from your opponent, not so much the farthest reach of your attack. You know, like, thrust is just a long range card. It doesn't matter if you're doing it with a Yari or a katana. We're not on the hex board anymore. It's long range, i.e. farther than right in your face. So a Yari thrust is the same as a katana thrust, bar any bonuses that the weapon might give.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Your mic cut out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so it's not like you're not playing long range cards if you have a katana, and you're not playing short range cards if you have a Yari. They're just how they chain with that weapon will be adjusted. But you should, in theory, both still have all the weapon ranges and distances in your deck. But you may be more favored towards one or the other based on the chains and the bonuses that you get from your weapon.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't want a scenario where, if I block an attack as the attacker, I am trying to avoid attacking because I'm afraid the defender is going to be able to counterattack, and then I'm going to have to defend again. Like, I don't want to have a scenario where, oh, if I don't chain into my card, then the defender's going to be better off. The attacker should want to chain. They should want to deal more damage. They should have that incentive. If I've dealt damage earlier in the fight and now I'm just like, oh well, now I'm just trying to avoid attacking so they can't fight me back. I feel like that's counterintuitive to how a fight should go. You should want to play all your cards. You should want to deal as much damage as possible.
Yeah, I hear you in some ways. I think that I do want the chain to have a little more incentive. In terms of the last part, I think that if you stepped up to the plate, if you stepped up to the plate,
I want to get hit by a baseball.
Well, if you got fucked up, like if you got fucked up, then you gotta play your attack cards. That's the rule. That's the rule of the game. You play your attack cards.
Play your attack cards so the defender can defend them and fight you back.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes the fight go. That's what makes the fight. That's the fight engine.
The wheels on the bus go round and round.
All right. Well,
something about.
I'm gonna think about it. I'm glad I have your Excel sheet. I'm gonna look at that again.
The defense cards are easier to build out because you're kind of just increasing the amount of things they can block. And
I like some of the defense changes.
Some of them go right into attacks, which is cool.
I like some of the defense changes. I think that I'm really gonna try to. I'm not gonna throw everything I did away, but I do want to try to integrate. I think that this is kind of what I feel like I always say, but you have a lot of really good ideas, and I really want to implement a good chunk of them in, and I think that there's ways to do it. I think some things you might be a little wrong about, but that doesn't mean that is. I think there's a balance.
You're playing a card game with combat. You want to play all your cards to the best of your ability. Obviously, there's going to be some limitations, but really, both sides should be able to have a chance to play their cards, attacker or defender. Once again, if you're defending a monastery and someone punches you in the face, you're not going to be like, well, I didn't defend it, so I'm not going to punch you back. It just doesn't feel, I get, it feels gamey. That's what it feels like. It feels like a game system, it doesn't fit the theme of a samurai duel. Like, if I can strike you in the face, why am I not? I get they're defender, but, you can lower the risk for attacking. But as I said, I don't think there's a huge risk because they're getting victory points in theory out of it. So, and you're stealing it from another player. So both players in that scenario are taking risks.
I still think the offensive risk is higher because it's the amount of resource you're putting into it, while the other player is still just kind of doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. And I think especially if I'm changing. Hold on. I think especially since I'm changing the part about you having to move back to the location to defend, I think that even makes it more so. I think that makes it even more so of the offensive player using more of their risk. I think it's even more riskier for them now. And I was already going to implement that part in, like that you mentioned.
So we'll see what it takes.
I think we should do little things though. I really think we should do little adjustments. I think the combat cards. This is why I really wanted to get a visual of the combat cards, because I know that this was going to be a whole big thing. And you sent me the Excel sheet so I can kind of see, and I think I have a little bit better understanding looking at this with what you're thinking. With what you're thinking here, because I was struggling to figure out where I was gonna start with putting them together, because I need to put them together. I need to make a card to be playable. So
yeah, well, I said I think the first thing you can do is try to figure out what you want to be a chain starter and an ender. That is the basic bookends of your chains, right? And I think mostly those should revolve around high attacks, but potentially some low attacks. Could also be a chain ender or starter. and then kind of build it from there and see what you kind of want. What flexibility, basically, how flexible do you want a card? And,
Yeah.
you know, middle and low attack should be more flexible in terms of chaining, but lower damage. And then obviously the attack types, bashes, slashes, like how they're defined, kind of defines what their chain ability is. So essentially, a high damage attacking, high directional attack should be very limited in its chain potential. Like,
I agree.
Your thrust is going to be.
I agree. And
straight up chain end.
I think that the one solution is to make it so high cut or high attack, whatever it is, doesn't chain into itself. It would need to chain into another type. I think that might be a decent fix, because then it might, you know, incentivize players to put different colors in rather than it just be all you know, what we were saying before.
Even color-wise, it might not even be a color. Like, colors might be chains instead of attack.
You're right. You're right. I'm going to think about that.
I don't see a purpose to having a color, like an attack type as a color. Because once again, attack type doesn't mean much. It's just a name. Really, at the end of the day, the direction and the chains it goes into are more important. So, from a colors perspective, as I said, you can potentially make half the card one color and the other half another color, or two colors if it changes twice into two different colors, and you could have that as your, you know, easy identifier of what goes with what. Like, oh, I have a bunch of red cards, these should all chain into each other. And then I said anything that's not a chaining card or that has limited chains might be, you know, not colored.
Yeah. Okay. I think I will try to think about that change, because I think you could be right about that. You could be right about that.
Well, yeah.
Hey.
And you can go crazy. You could have, you know, red and blue equals purple.
Yeah, okay. That's the DLC. That's the downloadable content.
DLC, downloadable content. Certain dude, movies.
He's in the movie. All right. Well, that was good. Thanks for hopping on. All right, yeah, me too.
Yep.
All right, Briley.
Adios.
All right, I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
I too. See you soon.
See ya. All right. And thank you for watching, everybody that watched or came in. I appreciate it. And I think that's a wrap for today. Adios. Huzzah. Adios. Catch you next time. Peace.